Randy, are you the host?
I have no idea.
We need to record this.
Oh yeah, I can record it.
But
and then
if you're leaving early, then should Sue record it?
I'm not the host either. I'm not even.
But can you make her a co-host so she can, or make me a co-host?
Yeah, I'll just make somebody else a co-host.
We can't hear you.
There
we are.
Can you not hear me?
I had low volume.
Okay. Why don't I make Brooke a co-host? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're going to be the host, Brooke, and then you should be able to record.
Yeah. Why don't you have her manage the recording so that way if I do leave before it's over, I don't interrupt the recording.
Do you know how to
record it?
She hasn't done it before. Can you just give us a quick?
Yeah, just go to the 3 dots under more options.
Okay.
And then go up to the top to manage recording.
Okay.
And then it'll ask you if you want to record.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Yep, she's got it. I think we're all good.
Yep, it's going.
Great. Thank you for your help.
Of course.
Quick question.
Sure.
Does it matter since she's recording? My audio is the one that's on. Does she need her audio? Oh, that's fine.
Nope, that's fine.
Thank you. Appreciate your IT support.
You know me. I am the IT guru. Nobody ever.
No, I say it about you all the time.
No, you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't. So, okay. All right, you ready?
I'm ready. Okay. At 6:30, it's 6:32. I'm calling the meeting to order. To start, we have 10 minutes of public comment. Is there any public comment?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Hoyt, Paulette resident, parent of a Mettawee 5th grader, music teacher here. I'm noticing on page 5 that you are proposing a reduction in music, art, and library, and it's not a surprise. I know that was on deck last year as well. I want you to consider some things as you think about it tonight. Number 1, the message you're sending about what our district values, that the arts, music, visual arts, and library are less valuable than physical education is kind of a message you're sending. Currently, students receive PE 3 times a week. They receive music 1 time a week. In a perfect world, a music student in a general music classroom receives less than 24 hours of music an entire school year. A reduction of a music position would mean, whether it looks like it all fits in or not, that we would absolutely have to lose something to our programming. The BRSU does not provide any curriculum for music or visual arts, and so we are teaching at least 7. I'm teaching pre-K this year. That's 8 different grade levels, and there's no curriculum for that. We don't open a math book to page 8 and 9 and 10 each day. We're creating our curriculum as we go, so our planning time is valuable for that, as well as setup for our disciplines. The unified arts teachers often end up playing other roles in our school. The music role is one that is the only one that teaches mixed grade levels. We have 5-6 chorus, we have 5-6 band, we have K2 sing, and this plays and directly supports our social emotional plans, our goals of making connections with students and giving them a place where they have a sense of belonging and they connect to other grades. It could mean, a reduction could mean that we wouldn't be here to support one another and the one classroom teacher, and that we might not be able to support WinBlock, which we decided last year and this year was a huge value to our school. That we will not be available for as many recess duties as we're currently having. And that we still require a lunch and our planning time by our master agreement. So I just hope that as you are thinking about reductions, we all know why. We all know the value of these positions, but that will be detrimental to our programs. Music especially, speaking from my own experience, I can't imagine how we would fit 4th grade band lessons into a new schedule without completely rocking a 60 a 60% job, 3 days a week, trying to fit all that in with our programming and what we value doesn't seem like it's going to fit. So as you consider the budget tonight, we know the reasons, we know tax rates are going up, but I would like you to consider the impact of what it will have on our students going forward.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I go next?
Kate?
Thanks.
I just want to, everyone should try to keep their public comment as concise as possible.
I'll do my very best.
Yep.
So Kate Leach, mom of a 2021 grad, I think, of Mettawee. And music was everything to him. It's still everything to him. And he wants to be a professional musician. He wants to go to music school, and that is 100% because of Lisa Hoyt. So I just want to start with that. I noticed going through this that you guys are proposing a $7 million budget for FY27. The cuts you're proposing to these three areas seem like they're going to save about $90,000, which is 1.3% of that area. That seems like a huge loss to the student experience for a relatively small amount of money. And when we're talking about taxes as the driving forces, I think we all understand. I hope that you all are emphasizing the potential of something like a merger with Wells and Middletown, which seems like it makes all the sense in the world, at least from an outside perspective. Seeing that Mettawee is getting much smaller, under 100 as this document states, right? We need more kids in the school in order to be offering an excellent education, not to be cutting the budget and the programs around the margins and undermining what makes a school great. So with where we are on Act 73, this seems to be the time when we should be focusing on that, not on cutting things that are really important to the student experience. So I hope you guys will consider that and think about retaining programs rather than making budget cuts that might actually cause us to lose excellent educators, even if it is a 0.6, like who can live on a 0.6 salary. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yeah, I'll be very quick.
Seth?
Seth Leach, parent of former Mettawee students, Waller resident my whole life. I just wanted to express that I broadly am very opposed to the idea of reducing anything to do with arts, music across the board, generally speaking. On a more personal level, I watched my stepson move to this community when he was 7 or 8. That's a very difficult time for a kid. And that when he was going through some of those difficult times, that the music room with Lisa Hoyt in it was one of his safe places in this school. To help him through that transition, but it also had a lot to do with forming who he is and what he's about. He's 16. He's coming back to the school to help with the sound for the holiday musical this Wednesday. He aspires to go to Berkeley, have a career in music, and all of that is because there was an opportunity for him here with Lisa, who is the kind of person I believe that communities and schools should be built around, not carved out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Heidi?
Heidi Hawkins, I'm a former Mettawee student and one currently hoping to get back in here. In my experience with a kid transitioning to a different school in the 7th grade level, music wasn't necessarily her thing, but the arts were. And I feel like the school academically, district didn't prepare them to be going into middle school. And they're required to take music their first year. So if they didn't have any or it was cut, they would have an extremely difficult time choosing and making it through those classes that are required when they move on at a district level.
Thank you.
So,
Anyone else? Anyone virtually? If you could use your hand raise feature if you would like to comment. Okay. Seeing none, I will move on. I will, however, address one particular common thread, and I'll ask Brooke this question, but my understanding is that these cuts are not taking a single minute away from what children currently access in PE or art or music classes. Is that correct?
So I was planning to like talk about it later in the budget, but for right now, the amount of classes that, like say Lisa Hoy teaches is 7. Those 7 would remain in those 3 days. And our hope is that we would still have everything. The one thing that we might not be able to have is K-2 sing unless we did it at a different time for those 3 days, because we would have band one day, chorus one day, and all school meeting. But as far as that goes, one thing she mentioned was just what would band look like in the lessons, and that would be something we talk about. But our plan is to continue all of those things while that happens. Art class is 11 classes in those 3 days. She currently works 3 days besides subbing one, and we're able to get all of those things in, so that would not change or reduce our time at all. And library is only 7 classes out of 5 days. All those 7 classes would be taught. So as far as classes go, it would remain the same even with these cuts.
Okay, thank you.
Am I
All right.
able to,
No. Thank you. There will be public comment again at the end. All right, would a board member care to review our operating norms?
I will.
Thank you, Anthony.
As a board, we will focus on student outcomes and well-being, be open-minded, respect each other, value different viewpoints, be responsive and responsible to our community, make decisions based on data and facts, listen to each other, be reflective, run meetings that respect time, have concise agendas, are transparent, and follow Robert's rules.
Thank you. Okay, I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you, Corey. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, next up, we have a discussion, and I do want to be clear on that. We're not voting on our budget figure tonight. This is the draft, and we are going to hold a hearty discussion on it. Sue or Randy, whoever would like to start.
Yeah, go ahead, Sue. Why don't you get it started? Thank
Okay.
you.
So I'll just point out a couple of things that I've already highlighted in the write-up here for you. Obviously, we all know that it does include 0.8 FTE reduction of teaching positions. And as already stated, that is just $90,000. And it's a 2-cent drop to the tax rate. So I showed you the comparison of what that would be if we didn't make any of those cuts. And remember that the tax rate calculation is preliminary still. We're still finalizing ADM count, finalizing, that goes into our long-term weighted membership, which helps calculate the tax rate. We do have the estimated yield, which came in at a 3% increase, not too bad. And right now I'm seeing, from what we can see of the count, it looks fairly stable, which is awesome. Considering you have a big drop in enrollment at both elementary and secondary level, it's really great to see that that count overall right now is not really going down very much. And I did point out that there's a couple reasons for that. One is it does look like your poverty factor is going up a little. So what happens is within that count, kids who are at a certain poverty level get weighted higher in that count. So if we have more children in poverty, we get a higher weight. So then our overall count goes up, pushing the tax rate down. The other thing I noticed in the calculation is that since Mettawee is now below 100, you get a higher weighting factor for having such a small school, because as we all know, it does cost more to have such a small school. So they do give you a higher weight for that. So those two things impacted the count, keeping it fairly stable, which is great. That's a great impact on your tax rate. All that being said, even though we are seeing a decline in the district tax rate, because your budget isn't going up very much, all those other things are fairly stable, we're still seeing an increase in the actual tax rates at the district level. And that's because our CLAs, our common level of appraisal, continues to decline. I don't know if do we have reappraisals scheduled at all?
Currently
Right
happening
now.
in Paula.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't
that's
know
awesome.
about Rupert. Do you?
That's awesome.
Not that I know of.
I don't recall.
Okay.
So that if it gets done in time, could impact next year's tax rate. But right now, this is all we have to go on.
I think they were planning on being done 7/1. So
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
think
that-
it will be in time.
Yeah, it'd have to be like before you
Right.
guys prepare taxes. We saw them as late as like the beginning of June last year.
Right.
And I think Dorset like got it just under the wire.
Yeah, I
last
don't know
year.
that we're going to come in under the wire.
Well, then we'll get it the following year. So the other thing I wanted to point out, let's see, we have estimates for the general assessment and the special ed assessment in there. At the time that I prepared this budget, I had not finished the special ed budget. I did just finish it today, and it does look like your sped assessments are going down. Again, drop in enrollment. So when we share out that assessment to all of our districts, it's based on that proportion of students at each district. And so even though we're seeing enrollment go down pretty much across the board at all of our districts, your drop was more. So that you're going to end up paying a little less of that assessment. So the special assessments that are in here now, I believe, are a little high for what you're going to see when I bring a draft to you in January. So that's good. You should see a reduction from that. And then finally, I want to talk about your surplus a little bit. So if we go to packet page 10. So we ended the year with a surplus $144,000. We did anticipate a $50,000 surplus, and we applied that towards reducing the tax rate for this year. And that leaves us with $94,000. So that 94 that's left over from FY25, under statute, we have to do something with that money. So we can apply it towards FY27, which is what I've shown here in this draft. Or we could ask the voters if you'd like to move it to Buildings and Grounds Reserve, Tax Stabilization Reserve. So we can have a conversation about that, given the fact that your tax rate's going up. Probably a good idea to be thinking about using it to reduce taxes, which is why I've shown it that way for now. But that's a decision point for you for the next draft. Okay. And then you, even with that 94,000, we are still anticipating a surplus. So at the end of this year, we again could apply any anticipated surplus at the end of this year towards reducing taxes, or ask the voters if they want to move it into a reserve fund. But we're also thinking about our federal money. And you have two positions that are federally funded here at Mettawee. We have budgeted to continue to fund those positions through federal dollars, but we don't really know what we're getting for federal funds next year yet. And we don't know when we're going to know. And if they do decide to cut federal funding and we don't have access to all of those funds or as much funds, it might be best to leave those funds available for use to continue to support those positions here at the school and not have changes in staffing because we've lost funding. So that's something else to think about. And that's sort of how we presented it at this point.
Okay. Did you want to add anything, Randy, or do you want us to start asking questions?
Sure. So I think that point about the federal funds is big, right? We're definitely in a very, very challenging time as a state. And so if we're uncertain about whether we're going to receive federal funds, the federal funds that are used to fund positions at Mettawee are for academic intervention services and for social and emotional services. And so the loss of those for the kids at the Mettawee Community School would be significant. And so I think as you're considering the surplus, whether or not to use it to reduce tax rate, I think that's a very good option. There's also the question about whether or not you want to hold on to it, and in case we don't have the money to fund those positions, because from my perspective, that's significant. With the reductions that we're proposing, as you said, when you look at what a full-time position is in the number of classes and that somebody would have, you're looking at, depending on the type of position, really 24 to 30 class periods a week in a typical school. So with the reductions that we're making that we're proposing in the budget, as we did last year, it is not directly impacting what we're able to provide for students. We're able to maintain the programming that we currently have. The loss of federal funds would directly impact services to students. And as we're building budgets across the system, we're being very cognizant of trying to make decisions that are least impactful to students and services and programming that we provide for them. I think that, we do have declining enrollment. We saw as Sue said, a larger decrease than we anticipated. And, as we consider what's going on across the state in public education reform, it's, your board is going to need to make a decision about what you decide on for a final budget and what you don't. These are the types of conversations happening across the state. And, I would argue that probably every community, or if not every community, just about every community feels really, really strongly about their schools, what they provide, what they offer. And as enrollment declines here and as enrollment declines across the state, we are facing this, the challenges that we're facing around how we fund education, what we're providing, and how expensive it is. So I think, you're facing the same thing as other districts. And when districts across the state are when we continue to offer more programming, more services for students that we don't continue to have enrolled, it just exacerbates the situation. I think this recommendation certainly doesn't come lightly. And when I look at a 10-cent increase for Paulet residents, it feels pretty awful. I mean, it feels really, really awful. And we can wait, right? We cannot do anything. But when that foundation formula hits, the Mettawee Community School will be hit very, very hard. And if we don't recognize and address how much it is costing to operate the school as it is right now, and that's even more difficult for me to imagine what we're going to face, when we hit the 28-29 school year and we have a significant decrease in funds available, and we kind of haven't, I don't know, I guess, slid a little bit more gradually into that reality. I guess the last thing I'll say is it's really, really hard to hear, and disappointing, I guess, in some ways for me to hear the narrative that I just did about what we value, because I just don't think that that's fair or reflective of this decision. We looked at every possible place that we could make reductions and continue to operate the school. And, both personally and professionally, I'm very, very aware of the value that the arts bring to our schools. And we will continue to provide those same level of services that we do now, as whatever happens as we move forward. So I guess that's all I'll say. I know we have a lot to discuss tonight, and I think, as Julie said, it's important to recognize that we're not asking for a vote on the budget, but we do need to decide how we want to move forward and what the board would like us to include in the final proposal that we bring to the board in January.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions, like on most pages, that I have little notes and highlights, and we can get through those as we go. But before we get to that point, I have some thoughts that I think I would like to express right out of the gate, because they feel really important to me. We have on page 6 of our packet the breakdown in here, and I think the really important thing for us to notice is that we are looking at a district tax rate that is a reduction from last year, and despite that, we are looking at a 10-cent increase to Paulet, and that is reflective of the entire Vermont problem. The problem that we have in Vermont with how we fund our schools is that we spread it out to everybody. And when it's a problem, becomes everybody's problem. It is nobody's problem. Mm-hmm. And what we are doing when we have a bloated budget and we have an overstaffed school, we have an overstaffed school. When we do that, we contribute to the problem in Vermont. And it doesn't feel fair to me to do that and to expect everyone else in Vermont to pick up after us. And it doesn't feel like we can expect Vermont school boards across the state or legislators in the state house to make hard decisions when we sit here and won't do it. That I feel very, very strongly about that. I'm speaking very clearly and publicly, knowing that I'm going to have some very mad constituents. It is what it is. That is how I feel. I feel that that is the genuine truth. We also have very small class sizes, and very soon we are going to be talking about reducing classroom teachers and combining grades. I hate that. It puts my stomach into knots. And I can't think about that and then continue to think it's okay, we'll overstaff unified arts. That really bothers me. I don't think that that's a great approach. I also agree completely with Randy about this may not be a huge problem this year. I'm concerned about kicking the can down the road until we have an eventual scenario where a lot of really hard choices need to be made all at once. I can't think of another way to make my constituents more angry than if we have a wall that we hit and we're talking about 3 classroom reductions and having our unified arts or better. And I see the tea leaves showing us that that's probably going to happen if we don't start making small cuts and making hard choices now. And then the last thing that I will say that's slightly outside of that, but I think is relevant in hearing what we're hearing from the public. If there is a merger, it's years away. It doesn't automatically result in schools closing and our halls being filled. It also includes much more than kids. We get all their staff, and we're gonna have to riff the heck out of people. And that's not gonna be a good feeling, but we can't just say, if we don't make this hard decision now, we'll never have to make this hard decision. Hard decisions are coming. They are in front of us now, they're in front of us next year and the year after. And kicking the can down the road isn't gonna make anything easier or better. Those are my general thoughts, and I'm opening it up to the rest of the board for theirs, and then we can work through the packet page by page. Does anyone have anything? Scott?
Yeah, it is a very difficult situation, and definitely agree with much of what you say, Julie. I mean, it's the costs are too high for what the tax basis is, and it's a problem. I just wonder, it's such a complicated equation, especially when everything goes to the state and it's redistributed. And I think so much of the high cost is out of our control because with the CLA and the lowering enrollment, those are probably the 2 biggest factors. The CLA, I think that should improve with the reassessment to get that more in line. Their properties are way underassessed. The declining enrollment obviously isn't unique to this community, but I think that one of the best ways we can try to combat that is to keep the quality of our education, as high and as the best that we can. I think Vermont as a whole ranks really well in the country that way, and I hope that all these changes they want to make at the state level doesn't drastically change the quality of our education throughout the state. We obviously can't control that here, but what we can control is the quality of the education in Mettawee and what makes it special. I understand it sounds like we still have music classes as we know them and things like that, but I think there's so much beyond that with the concert and all the concerts and the school play, but also outside of the classroom. I mean, my nephew ended up going to Berkeley. And that started here with Lisa and then with Jeffrey G at Long Trail. And it's beyond the classroom, having the access to those teachers, outside of class. And I just think that the arts are so special, and once that's diminished, it's hard to put it back. And we have exceptional art teachers here, and I just, I understand what you're saying about the staffing, but I don't know. I just think that's such a big part of what makes Mettawee Community's school a community. The sense of community that's in the school, and for the amount that it's going to reduce. And I think there's a lot of things in the air that could change, that will be changing. I'm hopeful that, this school will be, in the next few years, if it's meant to be, will be put more in the direction of the population that it should be, and that would really solve the problem, obviously. So anyway, that's just a lot of thoughts, but I just, it's a long time ago, my kids were at the school, but the memories of how special the arts were here feels like it was yesterday, because it was just, it was amazing, and I just don't want to see that taken away from. So.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I do.
Anthony?
I just don't want it to get lost in the fact that we're talking about numbers, but behind the numbers, we're talking about people, and we're talking about the community. So if we're proposing cuts, what happens to the people? Are there positions in other schools that is available for them? Do we know that information at all?
Randy?
Yeah, there are not. There were last year, but with all of the reconfiguration and kind of right sizing of Taconic and Green, we don't have part-time positions to make people whole if they stayed part-time at Mettawee.
Okay. Are you all set, Anthony? Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean,
Rico?
so one thing about all of this is obviously we went through this last year, like you pointed out, and I agree. We went through it last year, we're going through it this year, we're going to go through it next year. That is, as far as the way I understand it, the reason Act 73 was passed. Right? I mean, this is a perennial problem across the state for not just us, but for everybody. Not that it would solve all of the problems, but having these mergers, and I know there's a lot of controversy about forced mergers versus voluntary mergers. It would be helpful, I think, to know, and I don't know how easy this would be, but to know what our tax rate would be if we did have wells in Middletown in our school, or all 4 towns in one district, what the tax rate would be. I think it's pretty clear, at least in my opinion, that the education opportunities would be better. Right? Like you're talking about, like, we're going to be looking at combining grades in a few years. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that's inevitable with the numbers that we have, right? So if, and that's not good for education. I'm not really sure any scenario where it's good for education. It might help with taxes if we can, squeeze out a couple cents here and a couple cents there every year, but it's not going to help with education. And if our goal is to do education and taxes, which I think it is to keep both of those things in mind, that that a merger is really, I would think, the best. And I obviously, closing schools is not what anybody wants to talk about. However, I will point out they're going to be in the same boat. Once the foundation formula comes, I'm not sure how they're going to stay open. Right. And I don't know how we're going to stay open, or we're all going to have, severely combined grades to make it all work, which doesn't make any sense if we have 3 schools all within 30 minutes of each other that all have combined grades. I'm not even sure how that would be allowed, but apparently it might be. I don't know. So I don't know, is that possible, Randy or Sue, to be able to get a tax rate?
Not today.
Obviously, I'm not
Not
asking you
this
to
week,
just
not
tell
this
me a
month,
number
no.
right now, but like, you know, maybe for next week or at least before the next month's
No,
meeting.
It's not. There's.
Yeah, I don't.
That has to happen.
But clearly, wouldn't it, I mean, is it reasonable to say it would be lower with 4 towns and 1 school
And 200 students.
and 200 students?
There's so many
There-
factors we don't know yet, and we can't know.
But it's also reasonable to say it would be lower.
If you were putting
The
yourself
only,
in one building.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not what you're doing. You can't fit all those kids here.
Well, we can get close. I guess the idea is, I mean, you guys are talking about combining grades. I don't think my proposal is any less crazy. I mean, combining grades is that, I mean, you're at that point where you're at that point, and we're not in the Northeast Kingdom, we're not down in Twin Valley, we're within 30 minutes, 3 schools, right?
Yeah, so what I would say is that it may very well be that you could see a reduced tax rate if you were a merged district. But we wouldn't be able to come up with a number for you before the next budget draft that would make any sense, number one. And I also don't know what that would really inform you of. I mean, we do know that this is something you guys are interested in looking into, that they are interested in looking into. It's something that we will likely explore over
Right.
the next couple of years. But even if I were to say to you tomorrow, I've got all the numbers together and your tax rate goes down 3 cents, what really does that do for you at this point in time? And there really is no way.
Well, it
can
would help
gather
us,
all
I
that.
mean, to be fair, we're talking about making these decisions based on tax rates.
For your budget, what you know now,
Right.
but if you had a merger, like today's information on a merger is not the same as
The day
3
you
years,
go live.
3 years from now with the funding formula change. Do you know what I mean? There are so many factors that would go into any sort of process to review what would it look like if we merged. And there's really no way for me to gather that data
Sure.
quickly
Sure.
right now.
But I
It's
mean,
not my
is
data.
the vision of Mettawee School to end up with combined grades and less than 75 kids? Is that it?
Are you asking me?
Anybody? Is that it?
I would say it's not the vision. I mean,
Right, that's what I'm, I mean, is it right?
It's a really unfortunate circumstance that we're in, right? I mean, we need kids. We need kids in seats. You know, the state put together the committee that's supposed to redraw maps. They punted on it. They decided not to redraw anything. Which, what are we supposed to do? Right? Like we're just consistently in this cycle, and we've asked for help. We've been very proactive with the state, sending letters to every
Yep.
anybody who would hear us out. We've been extremely proactive, and we're right back where we are.
Does anyone remember Act 46 when we talked about how school choice was going to bring kids into our community? Didn't work. And I'll be honest, lowering property taxes across the state isn't going to work either. We don't have kids. People cannot afford to buy a house here. If you can't buy a house, you do not give a crap at all what your tax rate is. You don't have a house to pay taxes on. This is a bigger problem than is going to be solved in this room. This room, we are solving the problem of this budget. I don't like any of this. I didn't like it last year. I don't like it this year. I'm not going to like it next year. We're going to get to a part of this where we talk about election information. I'm the only one on the list. And I change my mind daily.
No.
This is not fun. Like
Well,
I said,
agree with you on that.
we're gonna go through all this. I can't in good conscience vote for a budget in January that doesn't include some level of reduction because we have to face the problems that are in front of us right now. We don't have to face the problems that are hypothetical what ifs. We have to face the problems that are in front of us right now. And I disagree with the idea that once you take something away, it's hard to give it it's hard to get it back. I think the harder thing is taking something away. And I think that tonight and last year is proof positive of exactly that. We're asking for reductions and we're being met with people being very upset. I guarantee you, if we said we want to go from 0.6 to 1.0, people wouldn't be here screaming and carrying on. Not that you were screaming and carrying on, but the sentiment, I think, holds. So that's how I feel. If anyone else wants to address any of that, otherwise I think we should start going through each line item.
I would like to make one comment, and
Yep.
that is that last year during these same discussions, I still consider myself a fairly new board member and budgets are new to me. But I really did believe that if we put the budget in front of our communities and they voted yes, that meant they wanted it. And therefore I was responsible to the people in my town. And I've learned over the past year that the formula that pays for the school and the education our children get is so much more than just what Rupert and Pollitt folks circle on the budget. So we have to be responsible. And Scott, like I have a fourth grader in this school right now who loves every single unified arts teacher. But I think we need to be responsible adults who look at the budget, look at the staffing, look at the ADM and decide, or not decide, acknowledge that you can't have everything. And that's really hard for me because like I said, I want all the things that you said, Scott. I want all those things, but I think realistically what we're looking at is it's a little bit foolish to think we can have them all. So.
Okay.
I just want to
Corey?
support that too. I mean, I've long said that I would build the school of just arts classes and let everything else go. And it does pain me to see that narrative be that we are taking away arts. I think what we're looking at is the idea that we have so many fewer students. I was one of the people who lobbied to have the position built up way back when, and that we had 205 students at that time, and we have less than 100 now. And that's, to me, what I've been thinking about and looking at this is that if our student population doubles, would we then double the staff that we have? Or because I don't think we would, so then it seems like we have the wrong staffing for the amount of students that we have. And that it's hard to say. And I just know too, I believe, like Julie says, that we are part of the whole entire problem in the state, and we have to take responsibility for our budgeting.
Sorry. No, I get it. The numbers are numbers, right? So the part that I have the most trouble with is even a year ago, we were talking about staffing and how, trying to fill positions was incredibly difficult. Why would, if my position was cut and I'm now part-time and there's no place else for me to go within the district, why would I stay? Why would I stay? I couldn't afford to stay. Like we went from one hand of not being able to get people to where we had people and they couldn't get houses, so we couldn't fill positions. So now we're cutting positions, and why I know I would. It's incredibly. I see this, and I see this process. I see this process in the state, and I say to myself, why would I want to work in the public sector? I'm just putting that out there. Like, anyway.
Okay. Are you ready for specific questions?
Go for it.
Packet page 5, we talk about the after-school program.
Yes.
My understanding was that we moved away from local because we couldn't staff. Has that?
That was one of the issues. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they are having, the company that we contract with has some of the similar issues.
Mhm.
And this is just a conversation
Uh-huh.
and a placeholder so that we can continue to have the conversation. Whether or not this stays in the budget or not, we're still talking
Yep.
about this and exploring what other options might be out there, or whether what we have is as good as we're going to get. We would just like to have a robust program, and we just may not be able to, as you said, staffing is an issue.
Yeah.
We may not be able to have what we would really like, regardless of whether we stay with a contract service provider or move back to locally funding the program. So it's just something that we're exploring.
Okay, but there's expenditures in here in this budget that include bringing that program back to local
As a
or no?
placeholder.
Okay.
It does not mean we're doing it.
And is there revenue in this budget?
Yes, as
Okay.
well.
So what I do want to mention is that I know other schools had a hard time staffing. We had staff for our program, so that wasn't kind of unique, but it was because a lot of our staff members wanted the extra time.
Right.
So we did have a full staff program.
Okay. Can you just point me to the line where the revenues are for this? Because I was trying to figure it out.
Second page 9.
Okay.
Line 26.
Line 20. Oh, duh. I swear to God, I looked really hard at
That's
this.
okay.
I feel it says after school program. I'm sorry. Does
Keep them like this, really nice.
Okay. Do other people have questions? I like highlighted and have lots of questions, and I'm just going to keep going unless people stop me. Is that okay?
Yeah.
When we're talking about the surpluses and we're talking about building, so how do we feel? How do you feel?
Mhm.
How do you feel, Randy, that we're doing with our building and grounds maintenance fund? Are we happy with those numbers, or do we really feel like we need to put money in there?
I think it's really a question for Adam and Bill, if they're happy with those numbers. And Adam, I know, is working on a sort of longer range plan as to of what the needs are. It's not a lot of money for a building of this size, and you guys have sort of passed that 25-year mark now.
Sorry, where's that number?
If you look at page 10.
10. Wrong page.
So I can't answer that myself, but I can bring that question to Adam to have a better answer for you
Okay.
next draft.
Yeah, because I just, in thinking about the surplus, like, I think taking the rollover surplus that we didn't anticipate turning into this year and putting it towards this
FY 27.
is a good idea.
Yeah.
I really like Randy's idea of holding the anticipated surplus from this year to cover those federally funded positions, because I think that is something that is so up in the air. It feels like gambling to do something differently.
Right.
But then this is my question before I
Yeah.
feel like I can make that decision is
Right.
how do we feel about the building and grounds?
Yeah, so I think it would be helpful to have Adam's input on what the projects are that he has planned for. Usually when we're doing this, it's like over a 20-year plan.
Mhm.
And we haven't adjusted it in the last, I don't know, at least 5 years.
Okay.
And that 40 was actually built off of what do we need to do over the next 20 years? When do we need the roof? When do we need those big ticket items? And make sure we set aside an equal amount as an appropriation on an annual basis so that we can then tackle those things.
Mhm.
But a roof's going to kill this fund,
Yeah.
right? Because when we did this many years ago, the roof wasn't going to cost as much as it's going to cost now.
Yeah, it was over 300,000, I
Yeah,
think, and
yeah.
yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
we just-
But we-
You just
No,
built it.
but when you
But
yeah, like
do
when
it
you think
fast.
about a
Yeah.
20-year plan,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like those
exactly.
big ticket
I was just gonna
items.
say, we did the roof and didn't we do the heating system?
We did something with the,
We had to
Was
replace
that-
one boiler at one
Right.
point. and then
Yeah.
but it wasn't a full,
Yeah.
How many boilers are there?
Two.
But I think that the roof is probably the only big project that we've had to draw on.
we
right?
did the parking lot not that long ago
Yeah, it was
too,
only
but
17 or something. Wasn't it?
I would just add that, my recommendation would be to not decrease the 40,000 that we put in annually.
I wasn't suggesting.
Okay. And I think, when we met and talked with Adam about facilities, he didn't make a recommendation to increase it. I think it's fine to go back and ask him, but at this point, it would, keeping it at 40 for next year is probably reasonable. I just wouldn't go any lower. And if he does come back and say, oh, I forgot something and I think we should increase it, we'll bring that to the January meeting with a clear recommendation as to why.
I was thinking more along the lines of asking our voters to transfer some surplus.
To the building and grounds.
Yeah,
Right.
The only project that Adam and I talked about last week at our monthly meeting is picking the whole school, but that's not.
Yeah, not a major, right, like there are funds available for that, right?
Okay.
That's what this fund is for, so, yeah.
When was the roof done? What year?
It's like
3 years ago? Yeah.
Do you feel like, painting is still a little ways off, or is it?
No, it's gonna be soon.
Is it? Okay.
And it needs to be replacing some of them.
Okay, so that's, yeah. It's a lot of gallons of paint. Okay.
okay. Anthony?
On the surplus, just, we also have to keep in mind that we had the one-time buy down last year. So absorbing some of the impact from no buy down this year, potentially no buy down this year of the tax debt.
Yeah, that was a state level buy down,
Yeah.
but yeah. On
And
packet,
that's contributing to this, well, never mind, I'm not even gonna say it, the overall tax issue we've got.
on 11, line 86, there was a big increase there. Did we add a para?
You're talking about as of, yes, the subtotal? No. So when you're looking at paraeducators, you sort of have to add together both the section under pre-K and your regular paraeducator section, which is on the next page.
Okay,
Because you've got, depending upon where they're assigned, I might have budgeted, for example, I budgeted for a special ed pre-K para for
Yep.
FY26. We don't have one this year. So
okay,
you never really know sort of where they're going to land. But when you add those two numbers together, we do have that reduction of one
Okay.
paraeducator.
okay. Packet page 13, line 155, the program admin fee. Can you just, that was also a big jump?
Yeah, and that number may still slightly change. You have some students that are attending special ed programming in other schools within the SU. And those are mainly special ed programming, not a lot of regular ed involved. And so there's an administrative fee that's charged for those students to cover the regular education sort of portion of their attendance at those schools, but the majority of the cost is in the special education budget.
Okay. Packet page 15, line 242. That's Mettawee admin staff, right? We have 2 full-time people?
You have one full-time year-round person and
Okay.
one school year person,
Okay,
full-time school year.
okay. And do you feel that you need those people?
We did talk about it through budget talk, and it absolutely definitely needs 3 people. And some of the examples are their start and end times are different. Some open up and some close. But based on the duties I have them do, I do feel it's important. One is its safety. So if there's only one person and things happen like running around and doing things, you wouldn't be able to leave their desk because our security policy is that always someone's there. So one person runs and does all kinds of things throughout the building, throughout the day. Buses, like all the coordination, collaboration, and so I think one person would be very challenging, and they do have different duties throughout the day that they're assigned to. So I do at this point think so. Now, as we reduce in time in the future, that might be something we could consider. But right now, moving forward this year, I really feel like there's 2 people who needs to be in those positions.
Okay. And those were my questions.
That wasn't a lot.
It was, well, it felt like a lot.
One other thing I'll mention that we sort of, we've touched upon the decline in enrollment, but I do want to point out that the other than the cuts that we've talked about with the staff, the main driver for your budget not going up a lot is the declining enrollment in secondary, right? When we get to packet page 18 and you see we budgeted for 141 students, we have 134 right now. We expect 128 next year. Of course, that can change tomorrow, right? Like maybe kids will move in, but secondary program, you're paying dollar for dollar. So it's not anything that can be absorbed. And then you get sort of that bonus when you see that declining enrollment. But that's the driving force behind that, your budget not going up a lot.
Okay. Okay, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're looking for some direction. I feel very strongly that I've made my voice known. So I guess in general, if everyone do you want, you want us to tell you where you want us to be. I want us to run the tightest ship that we can run, knowing the very limited amount of information that we know about our future. So I guess I would just ask everyone to sort of generally say where they're at in this. We're not voting on this budget tonight. I know you'll probably be able to like help us in January, but you need some information from us to be able to do your best work between now and then. So
Again, I'll just say that I think this is the exact reason that Act 73 was passed, that this whole problem with the budget that we have, the only thing we can do, and the governor said this multiple times, is cut. It's the only thing we can do, which ends up over time hurting education. It's inevitable. It won't, like, you can't keep cutting and help education. And that's the impetus for merging. I know I'm a broken record at this point, but it's the, I don't think it's reasonable to say you don't know what's going to happen. The whole premise of the law that was passed was that mergers will save money. Right? I mean, if that's not true and you guys don't know that, then the law should be repealed.
it probably will be.
Well, it might be, but it might not be. I mean, but at the same time, I do think that I don't know. To me, I just think it's irresponsible. Like, you think it's irresponsible to do one thing. I just think it's irresponsible to run all these schools with combined grades and no extracurriculars and running like the tightest ship possible just to say that you run the tightest ship possible. Again, we're not in Twin Valley or we're not in the Northeast Kingdom. We are in an area that has multiple small schools that are all in the same position. And it does seem, a little like, and again, like I feel like I'm not crazy. They just passed a law that said this, right?
But our charge is to deal with the budget for the school.
I get
And
that,
that's-
but
yes.
we also don't have to be so nearsighted that we ignore all that.
Right. Well, we have global
Right.
ends.
So
We have global ends, and we have leaders that are telling us that they can achieve our ends successfully at these FTEs. That's what I'm hearing, and that's where I'm coming from. Jenna?
I would agree.
Okay. Corey?
Agree.
Anthony?
I don't know.
Okay. Scott?
I think you know what I stand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Respectfully disagree.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. It's a split, and I'll be your tiebreaker. Okay. Is everyone set moving on with meeting? I mean, we don't have a definitive answer, but we're not going to until January anyways. And you'll get an update from our buildings and grounds people. And thank you. Thank you both. No, Brooke, thank you. And Sue and Randy for the hard work that you've put into this. Really, really appreciate all of your work. All right. As we said, the next part of this is the election information. I am the only Mettawee member that is up for reelection.
I think that maybe, I think I'm off.
Okay, so it only me hit the pack. So if
Yeah,
you're up, okay,
I think I'm up. Yeah, I think it's been 3 years, so.
okay.
Hold on, let me just check, Anthony, because I have a sheet from Celeste. Let me see what I can look it up for you.
Okay. So your next question then, Anthony, is if you are up, do you plan to run?
If the people of Rupert consent.
Do you plan to run?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't ask if you planned to win.
I'm going to run
Okay.
if I'm up.
Okay. Sorry. Not that you wouldn't win. You would you would obviously win. But
I serve at the.
at the pleasure of your community. Yep. I have my petition filled out. I'll submit it on January 26th.
That's what I was.
Wait till the last day.
Last second.
There might be a snowstorm that day. You
We'll
might want to do
see.
it early.
Yeah.
We will. We will.
We'll write in. It's fine.
You can't get out.
What is that? When they thought you were out and they put you back in. Okay. And then we will have the distribution of the monthly update from the superintendent.
Okay, just before we talk about that, it looks like Jenna and Scott are both up in 28. Julie's up in 26. Anthony, you're up in 27.
Yeah.
You, Rico, and Corey are all up in 27.
I
Okay.
think the importance of education. I'm a prodigy of the Board of Education of the City of New York. That district for a lot.
Okay.
Counting.
So it's just
Just
me.
Julie.
And you know where I stand. All right. So next is the distribution from the superintendent.
There's not a lot in the report that connects directly to Oops, sorry about that. There's not a lot that connects directly to your district, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or talk through anything that you'd like more information on.
I do want to highlight the beginning part though, where we're in the news 3 times recently, but highlighting the Thanksgiving feast was a huge success in our community. Really always appreciates that, and thanking all the parents for coming and serving and taking part. And the boardwalk, for those that did join Anthony, shout out to you for being here. But it was a wonderful opportunity for our whole school to come together, a very positive part for our kids to see how many people care about our community and just the amount of donors and the money that went into creating that. And it is something that's been very positive for our students here. And lastly, we it's not in this, but in the paper this week, we had a past student of ours make a hat for every kid here.
I was going to
That
ask
was
about the
neat.
hats. Okay, so it was a former student
Former
that
student.
made that knit hats for everybody.
It was a former student who had huge success here, and a lot of it felt like that we did a lot for her, and she wanted to give back, so she needed all of those 100+ hats.
That's the sweetest.
Yes.
There's a lot of love as a knitter. There's a lot of love that
Actually, it was
goes into
crocheting,
those.
but yes,
Okay,
yeah.
same thing.
Yes, she wanted to make sure it was not
It's
knitting, but-
sticks and yarn.
So 3 positive things that were highlighted this past month.
That's amazing. That's so cute. And then this is a little early to spill the beans, but I did hear that we had a Pollitt family that was interested in donating a tree in
Yes,
the
I heard
memory of some of their family, or in honor of some of their family that used to live in this area. And that's, more to come, but I think that's pretty cool. And they think that we'll find a home for the tree at Mettawee. So future kids will get to sit under the shade of that. And I think that's special.
Really nice.
Okay. Any other questions for Randy or Brooke? Okay. Next up, we have our work plan. I didn't see anything on it that needed changing. So our next meeting will be in Pollitt, and we will have all of the regular stuff. We'll be approving our budget, approving our warning, approving our tuition rate. We still have this community survey thing, but we had spoken at other meetings about pushing that to the spring. So that's just left over. Just ignore that part. Any other questions on the work plan?
No.
The legislative and VSBA update, we didn't have anything in the packet. We have the report.
Julie, we're missing the February on the.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on-
Is it on the back?
next page.
The
Oh,
next
sorry,
page?
never
I
mind.
thought it was there.
Next time?
Page 27.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. Never mind.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have the report from the redistricting task force. We're all sort of aware of that. We are, I think, God, I hate to say this, but we're right back in like the limbo stage that we were before. Chris is nodding at me. Don't know it went nowhere, and we don't know what's coming next. What I do know, and I want to be clear to my constituency about this, and I think that unlike the rest of this discussion, I will have all of my board backing me on this, but we are committed to staying in touch with our local legislators. We are regularly communicating with them and meeting with them, as many of them and as often as we can. We are committed to continuing to talk to other communities about potential mergers. I think that we should start thinking as a school board about other partners beyond Wells and Middletown, like Taconic and Green. I think we need to have everything on the table, and I think that we need to have healthy, solid discussions about all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I anticipate that the rest of this winter and spring is going to be filled with all of that.
I 100% agree.
I think we need to do what we can for our community and to protect our community. And I understand if people leave here tonight and don't believe that that's what I'm doing. I get it. But I know where my heart is.
I'll say that over this past year, this entire board has put in a lot of work in trying to find ways of getting everything to work. And we've been extremely proactive. You put in a lot of great work in trying to be proactive in that. We need some outside help.
100%.
You do it all the time.
No.
No, I appreciate all of your dedication and how much you are learning and engaging with everything and just the letters that you have sent. And I feel like we are trying to reach out to all the people that would be willing to have the conversation early on, just so that we are letting them know we're opening our doors to merging. That's a possibility.
I think it's true to also call out Julie specifically, like the effort and the time you put in to advocate for Mettawee and the students here is incredible, and it's inspiring. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Julie, can I just jump in? I'd like to kind of second Jenna's comment there. There's a tremendous amount of work, time, effort, energy happening within the BRSU by board members, by board chairs, with local legislators, with state level associations, advocacy organizations, talking to the Agency of Education, really being very, very involved in proactively looking for solutions, contributing to state level conversations. And I'm not sure that there is a system across the state that has been as involved as the BRSU has when we think about the involvement from districts, board chairs meeting, oh my gosh, every week to talk through what's going on, where can we advocate, who should we talk to, what's the message, how do we align, how do we stay strong, how do we support the system that we've got here to do right by our communities and our students and our staff. And I think it is important. Julie just talked about the toll that this position, that being board chair is taking, and I see that across all of our boards right now, because this is very, very difficult work, and the pain and the emotion and the anger and the frustration over what the Paulet and Rupert communities are facing right now as we continue to face declining enrollment at the school is really one of the driving forces for the reform work. And none of us want to be in this position. I can guarantee you that the recommendations that are coming forth are not at all the recommendations anybody wants to be making. I just keep thinking like right now, if the foundation formula base is like $15,000, I mean, just to give you a reality check, I think everyone who's watching this right now, like, this is what I think about. 15, let's say, because of all of the weights that Mettawee would get, you're up to $22,000 a kid that you would get. The Mettawee school tuition rate's like $35,000. When I talk about like the cliff, because you don't have enough money coming in because you don't have enough kids, and that is hugely concerning to me. And I just feel like we're really trying to do the right thing for folks, and And it doesn't feel good to anybody, I'm sure, right now. So just please know that this is difficult and frustrating and hard and not the conversations any of us want to be having right now. So,
But to
Yeah.
be fair, foundation formula envisions larger schools. Correct? I mean, the whole law envisioned larger schools. So with 200.
well, it envisions larger systems and and stable schools, right? Which is, the work that we've been spending the last couple of years working on in Taconic and Green is how do we provide that stability to protect us from this, to make sure that the foundation formula, we know that statewide it's going to provide enough money, but right, it's not going to continue to support buildings that don't have enough students for the staff that are there. So 100%, Rico, it's about the systems, and then school districts, those new systems are going to have to tackle this, the challenge that Mettawee is facing right now. And I think that while there's a lot of concern around, we know all the off ramps with Act 73, and there's speculation and concern and questions about what will happen, I have not heard a lot of discussion around the fact that the foundation formula ultimately isn't the right decision for the state. Whether that date gets bumped from July 1 of 28 to later or not, I have no idea. And I know that we've been advocating for the fact that the foundation formula can't be, you got to figure out a system that allows for a strong and effective governance and operating system, a strong and effective funding formula and funding mechanism, and equitable and robust educational offerings. And we can't do that with like a diffuse, thin system, which I think is exactly what you're saying, that if we don't start consolidating schools, then we will never long-term do what's best for Vermont students across the state. It's tough, definitely a tough time right now.
And we won't know until January, right? Because it was supposed to.
We won't even know then.
You won't know anything, right? And through this budget season, we'll
Yeah.
have no answers.
I
mean, we're going to be voting on a budget and having absolutely no idea what's coming.
Yeah.
Yep. But anything that is coming isn't going to be in this budget year that we're talking about. So we know what we know, and we have no idea what we don't know.
The known.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that? I mean, stay tuned, people. Like I said this last year, I feel like a flipping broken record, but stay tuned. Pay attention. We're going to keep talking about this. Okay. Future agenda items. Well, number 7 is going to be a repeat on all of our agendas. Anyone have anything that they're requesting added to the next agenda? No. 7.
More of the
over
same.
Again?
Yeah.
Yeah. 7 squared. Okay. Our next meeting is in Paula at the town office, upstairs in the auditorium. Maybe our tree will still be lit. I don't know. I don't know when it's coming down. But very festive and fun. If you guys get a chance to drive at night through Paula Village, it's worth it. You ready?
I am.
All right.
Okay, what is the level of engagement of all board members?
Through the roof.
Super high. Agendas followed perfectly and linked to the work plan. Sufficient board time spent on community engagement, ends discussion, and executive limitations. Yes, we always sufficient. Consent agenda was used appropriately, and we adhered to the operating norms.
And I would like to take a moment to express some gratitude that this board excels
Yes.
at this particular thing.
I always agree with that. This board does handle difficult topics and difficult discussions very respectfully So I really do appreciate that. What went well?
I think we covered part of it right there.
Yeah. Anybody have comments for what went well?
I think just the overall discussion and debate, even though we didn't agree, we all expressed ourselves respectfully for each other. You know, it's tough stuff.
And I appreciate that these positions are there. It's not a personal agenda. It's like we are all thinking about things through a lot of different lenses and analyzing it and coming up with it. It's not just, you know,
Right.
anything
And I
personal.
appreciate, you know, I think sometimes the biggest problem with debates, right, is like if you can't agree on the problem, you know, you can disagree on solutions, but if you can't have a common problem to tackle, and we don't do that as a board. And so I think that is helpful for us.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, while we may not agree, I think we have an extremely high amount of respect for one another and for the viewpoints, and that no matter what the overall concern is, like we all care about the school. And we all want what's best for the school.
Well, we
Because
want what's
how do
best
we
for
get
our
there?
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we center our kids.
Yeah.
Right, for the education of the kids, that's top priority.
Does anybody?
Anthony, you know, I did have a question. The difference between crocheting and knitting.
Yeah.
2 sticks, 1 hook. There's your difference.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Knitting has the 2 needles.
Oh.
Crochet is just the one.
The
Okay.
one,
Still
and it's a hook.
and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's still very hard.
It's still very tricky. It's still a labor of love.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
The love that
Thank
she
you.
has in the chat.
I've never heard that. But it makes sense. Does anybody have concerns with this meeting or ideas on how it could be improved?
I due to the state, I do not think it's appropriate for lemon bars or brownies.
Okay.
I would say it could be improved if magically there was a magic wand and the funding issues would go away.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. The
Wait a minute.
funding fairy.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
funding fairy would be ideal.
Okay.
Oh
my gosh.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
I think
And
we
moving
have-
on.
I think we have it.
All right, thank you, everybody, for your patience. It is now time for public comment. I have 10 minutes scheduled for public comment. Would anyone care to speak? Melissa?
Yeah, Melissa Driscoll. I just, so as I've been here before, obviously very in tune with all of the, you know, changes coming down the road. It sounds like everything is kind of concluded at this point, and so moving forward next year, as of right now, everything will be exactly the same as it is today in terms of like middle school choice and all of that. Is that where we stand as of today? Who knows what may happen tomorrow, but
Where we are as of today, there's no changes. Chris?
Yes, nothing's gonna change. You know, I wish I could tell you more what's going on. Back 73, but it's been a disaster. I mean, the task force, you know, I talked to Julie a little bit. I felt it was doomed to fail from the beginning just because of how the appointments were made. But, you know, we had an update. I had to be in Montpelier the 3rd. We were called back to House and Senate to be addressed by the JFO, which is the Joint Fiscal Office. You know, if you think education is a problem, I got to tell you, we got a lot of problems. I mean, education pales into what we're going to be dealing with healthcare. The revenues are down all across the board. They're not where we had hoped they would be. You know, I posted it. I'm not a social media person, so I tried it. I post on Front Porch Forum, hoping that everybody has it. I have a personal Facebook page that I try to post. I left links to basically what I tried to do to supply people with the exact information that we got at this briefing. Education, health, fiscal well-being or where the state stood, where the federal government stood, where we're both going to be, and there's great concerns there. Almost 40% of our budget is federal government. Our budget's 9.1 billion. 3.8 of it comes from the federal government, and nobody up there, including the fiscal folks, know what to do because we don't know what's coming, what's going. Between education and Medicare, that's half of our total state budget. There's concerns about Medicare on the federal level. And we're spending 2.4 billion on education. Those are the big nuts that we have to crack. The governor's pretty adamant about going forward with Act 73. He feels that it has to change. We can't continue the way we are. I think we had the opportunity to do that, and we just didn't do it. The task force, in my opinion, didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't do the job. The governor's talked about, having a whole new task force. I don't know. He had one appointment. David Walk was his appointment. The other 5 appointments were from the Speaker of the House, Joe Kowinski, appointed 5, and the rest of them came from the Senate committee on committees. So he had very little influence in this at all. But he's laser focused on this particular issue. So I don't know what's going to happen during the session. I don't know. It's law, so where does it go? It doesn't. I don't know that it can go back to the education committee. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be pushed to do something. And you talked about the declining enrollment. One of the things that we learned, first grader in Mettawee, when he graduates 12th grade, there'll be 20,000 less students statewide. We will be below 60,000. So I think from a local level, the important thing is to do what you do, planning, because something's going to happen. And it's not necessarily going to come from the state. You're going to have, local choice is good in some instances, but sometimes when it all falls back on you and you're accountable, it's not such a great position to be in. Help yourself get in that right position and do the planning now, because stuff is going to change. I mean, you can't spend what we're spending, and there's so many other systemic problems with this state. We are so business unfriendly that the people that you want to come in here with kids that have your schools can't afford to. And they're not wanted here. They're not welcomed here, and it's hurt everybody. Our aging demographics. Now you've got a lot of folks that are trying to pay for these schools, and that's part of it. That's a lot of your taxes. You don't have a lot of good things happening. So I hate to be willy-nilly, but I think the best you can do is plan and do the best and plan at a community level and do the best you can for a community. And I think that's what all the legislatures are probably telling their folks. We got to take care of ourselves. We got to figure this out for ourselves. To do it. I mean, if these art programs and stuff are important, the community should get together and can't do it through the budget. Then, bake sales. I don't know. Figure something out. If it's really that important. But that's what I can share with you. I have no idea what it's not going to be a rosy, fun second half of biennium. I can tell you that. There's just a lot of challenges, and I'm not sure any of us are sure know what to do about it. So.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Lisa?
Thank you for the work you've been doing. It's not an easy job. Thank you for what you've done and for the hard conversations. I want to just clarify one thing that Randy said. When I said I think you're sending a mixed message, the message is that if you're going to cut unified arts, then why isn't PE in there as well? If we have a reduction, we have a reduction. The fact that we're not considering administrative assistance as well tells me that maybe we're not really considering everything that's possible. I do respectfully disagree with Brooke. We've had some conversations. We're still in conversation that the job of the music teacher will not fit into 3 days without it being a problem with programming. There's just no way. And of course, I'm advocating for myself, and I appreciate those who've spoken up for me. I've been here since 2003, and I bought my house in this town because of this school. So it is hard to separate the faces from the jobs. We won't be here forever, and we're expensive because we've been here a long time. But to kind of piggyback on what Anthony said, our starting salary, and Sue, you're the number cruncher, but you know, we sit in negotiations. Someone coming in to take one of these jobs at 60% with a bachelor's degree is $45,500 is our starting pay. And if you're at 60% of that, you're making about $27,000. And so a teacher is not really gonna be looking for jobs that are 3 days a week. There's no other job out there to fill the rest of that time. I'm not saying you have to do that for me or for Amy or for Amanda or for any of us. But the fact is, I have been here long enough that I have mentored a new music teacher in the BRSU every year since COVID. Those positions have been impossible to fill and for people to stay in. And so I think about what you are risking by reducing those positions to a spot that's not affordable, knowing that in the future, maybe you want to expand them. So, you know, you'll get through it. We'll all get through it. People come, people go. But there is a risk of reducing things to a point that you won't be able to fill them. And I guess that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I quickly
Kate?
piggyback on that? Yeah, I mean, first of all, yeah, everything you guys are doing is nearly impossible. So thank you for all the work. But I think sort of to Lisa's point, I was thinking as I was listening to this whole conversation that it's a question of whether what we're doing is really trying to invest in education, which I know is everybody's goal, or are we managing an inevitable decline with school closure as the end of it, right? And I think that's this real question. And unless we figure out how to crack that enrollment nut, I think that's what we're doing. And I think, you know, those of us who were here sort of, you know, concerned about this move, like that's what we're looking at, is saying, hey, you know, if you start cutting these things, that's only going to make the enrollment problem worse. And so that's why we're casting it out and saying, what can we do that's going to really go at the heart of the enrollment issue and get enough kids in the school that it's going to be feasible to keep small schools open. So I hope that comes across in all of our comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
One very quick one.
Go ahead, Seth.
Promise it'll be quick. But I just feel like I have kind of a question that doesn't really warrant an answer, but really more like a direction for the board and for the school as a whole. Kind of coming off what Chris was saying about there are a lot of problems that are really big that none of us can solve. But that doesn't mean that there aren't problems within our own house, so to speak, that could be addressed. And I just wonder what are some of the reasons why there aren't students in seats that we can do something about. We can't do anything about affordable housing in this room, but there are things about the way schools run, the programs that are offered, and the experiences that that students and parents have that we do have control over. And so if there are kids not here, are we doing exit interviews? Are we asking people why they're not here? Or are we out there in the community asking people why they chose to buy a house in this particular town versus this particular town? That's just something that as I think the board and the whole staff should just be mindful of every day as they do their work.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Ross?
Yeah, I mean, I just worry, all the doom and gloom, I just worry that we're gonna be making a brash decision that has outstanding consequences down the road. And, I feel like we're kind of in this corner right now where, just hearing what Chris says, like, this is only one of, many problems. I just want us to make sure that we have those goals in the next 10 years of what we're going to do to keep this school running and running at its full value. And, all of this stuff it's daunting to even consider, but we have to have that vision of that future and not let, what I feel is like the governor is kind of like, this is a strategic plan. It's just like, everything is costing more and we're boxed into this corner and then we have to make these cuts. And then we're going to have to do it again. We're going to have to do it again. We're going to end up closing the school if we keep going down that road and we don't address the bigger problems. And I know that's not the board's role to do, but we really need to start figuring out some of this stuff so it doesn't affect, a few people.
I'm not closing public comment yet until, if anyone else wants to speak, but I do want to take this opportunity with Chris in the room, and I've said this to him before, but to your point, I believe that one of the fundamental problems that Vermont has regarding education and legislation, I would guess all legislation, but I'll focus on education and legislation, is that all of the bills that move forward lack a feedback mechanism. The AOE takes legislation, they turn that language into rules, they give those rules to the districts implement them. Then what? Then next year, more rules, more legislation, more rules, more stuff on the district's back. I think that the best thing that we could do as a state is to provide all of our legislation with a feedback loop mechanism so that people that are implementing the rules, that are changing our systems, can say with clarity to the legislatures, we believe your intent was this is the actual effect. And then I believe if that happened, we could actually move forward on a lot of things, but instead we tend to spin our wheels and have something else piled on top of us.
And then pass legislation that has lots of unintended.
Right. And then we pile other legislation on top of that without addressing the fact that it was this one little misunderstanding in the legislative language. That's my soapbox. Sorry, I had to take the opportunity. Is there any other public comment in the room?
I just want to add to that and add to your statement. Yeah, every thought that process I go through, I always think about what is it going to do for me today, tomorrow, next week. The analogy being immediately, medium range, long range. Every decision I do, I take that into consideration. I think we all have to take that into consideration, from where we're sitting here to at the legislature to the and the state house and to the federal government. Like, every decision that gets made by anybody that can make a decision has profound impacts on the communities and on society as a whole. So I would say I agree with you with that statement.
I just have a random question.
Melissa?
Do we really need all of the funds in the enrichment and the mandatory GISP and the busing? And I know it's great, but obviously when I grew up, if you got to GISP, somebody drove you. If you didn't, but obviously the cost that we're spending there, and the PTO's job is theoretically supposed to raise funds for the enrichment. Like, could we be recirculating that money into the arts here and cutting it through like the social emotional and all the other things that have really, really big price tags on it? Like, would there be another way to cut back some and still keep some of the other in-house positions?
Okay.
The only thing I want to say about the GISP is that now that we are having all students go, unless it's parent driven, more kids are participating.
We're also paying teachers' salaries to go and then sit every Tuesday for 8 weeks.
So what I think, to Brooke's point, if you would like to consider changes to GISP that don't include everybody, it's no GISP. So those are your choices. So if enough people want to come and say that there's no value in the GIST programming, that would be a future conversation. But I will say this, if it to me, for equity purposes, is all or nothing, because anything else is not fair to certain people. And when you target that to kids, it's not right. Is there any public comment online? Okay, last chance for anyone in the building.
I do have a question about the after, I think it was the after school. Why is it going up to 40,000 from 17,500?
What line are you on?
Page 14. Program, salaries.
I just want to determine it's not, it wasn't going up, it wasn't there at all. Back at page 14, are you talking about the after-school program?
Yeah, the salary.
Going from 3 to 48.5, the whole thing. Yeah, so we've got a placeholder in for the after-school program. We were exploring whether or not we want to continue with the contract service provider or move to going back to doing it locally. No decisions have been made. It's at the top of the conversation. There's revenues to offset that, so the net impact on the budget as a whole is only 7,000.
Yeah. I mean, for a parent that has to send their kids to after school, I mean, I have to pay $70 every time for both of my kids to go there. And then, you're to budget even more for a salary for that person just seems like what we had was better than what we have now, personally.
You're saying that when we ran the program before, you liked that program better than
It was more affordable, yeah. I mean, it's $35 per kid.
Yeah, I think it was half. We charged half that when we were running
And
it, yeah.
I'm having to pay someone a seventh grader who, $30 to watch both my kids in my classroom during meetings like that. I'm having to make those choices, and it just doesn't seem like we had a system that was more affordable, had the same amount of coverage. You could literally go and say, hey, I want my kid to go there on that day. I didn't have to go onto an app and do 15 things and have my debit card connected to it. It just, for me personally, I think it worked better before.
There you go, Sue. You have a
vote
in favor.
That's good feedback.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is,
Okay.
seems like more money invested in the wrong place, and it's not really more affordable for me, So.
This
money
is
that's in the
talking
budget is
about-
only if we did bring it back. Though.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with
Okay.
keeping it. We don't, as a district, pay any money for the current program.
Okay.
So yeah, this is only if we were to switch it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any more? All right. Hearing none. We have worked all the way through the budget or through the agenda. So as long as there is general consensus of the board, I would call to adjourn this meeting at 8:08 p.m.
Right.
Agreed. Excellent. Thank you all. Thank you, Brooke, for